Welcome back and welcome to our coverage of the World Cup 2014. We are counting down to the kickoff in Brazil on Thursday. For weeks, workers have been scrambling to finish the stadiums in time, but at this point, it is clear that many things won't be ready. Paulo Cabral is there and joins us now live from Sao Paulo with more on that. And Paulo, what's happening here?
Well, Phil, you know, in 2007, when Brazil was chosen to host the World Cup in 2014, the government came up with an ambitious plan with a budget of more than $15 billion. The idea was not only building stadiums, but also revamping the country's infrastructure. And then they said this was not only for the tournament, but actually something important for Brazil to have a leap forward in its development. But the problem is that now, 2014, 7 years on, much remains unfinished.
It's non-stop work at the Arena da Baixada Stadium in the southern city of Curitiba. This venue was among the most problematic in Brazil in the run-up to the tournament, despite the workers' pride in doing this job.
I feel very honored to work here. Now I am a part of the history of Curitiba. I think they should inscribe the names of all the workers that made this happen in a marble plate by the entrance, as they did in the arena in Brasilia.
The retractable roof that was in the original project plan was abandoned. Still, it seems the stadium will be ready on time for the fans and players that will come for the tournament. Accommodations for the media covering the event, however, won't exactly be world-class.
This building was to be the media center for the World Cup here in Curitiba, but it won't be ready in time, so organizers had to improvise. Journalists will work from this tent right beside the construction site.
The city's bus terminal is another project built as part of the World Cup package, but visitors may not see it complete. The state secretary for the World Cup says the federal government had promised to pay for everything, but in the end, much of the cost was passed on to the states.
If we knew all of this at the time of the choice of the host cities, if we were aware of everything that it would imply and how much we'd have to invest, I believe we wouldn't have made such effort to be a host city.
Further north, Fortaleza, capital of Ceará, is an exception. The arena has been ready since December 2012, and a number of matches have already been played here. But in the weeks running up to the tournament, the city was still struggling to get roadworks finished in time.
Even if some of these works are not ready in time for the World Cup, they will be here afterwards for the benefit of the population. It's an important legacy here and in other states that will host World Cup matches.
So the arena was not a problem here in Fortaleza. It was ready ahead of schedule and on budget. But it's not only sporting venues that it takes to make a World Cup. You also need infrastructure like public transportation, for example, and this can be more of a problem.
The Fortaleza light railway would connect the city's bus terminal to the port on the other side of town. The project was slated to be ready in June of last year, but as in other host cities, things didn't go as planned.
Many things won't be ready in time. There were 109 projects that initially made it onto the list of the World Cup priorities. Only 25 of these are ready for the tournament.
So the government says that after the World Cup, everything is going to be finished and that this is going to be very important for Brazil. But, well, for the visitors that are coming for the tournament, things won't be all ready in time.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, very good report, but I mean, that brings up a good point. The visitors don't care about what happens after the World Cup. They want to be able to get from point A to B to get to the venues. And as a journalist in your new media center there, don't you think this is going to be a problem for visitors in terms of infrastructure and just transportation? Is that going to be okay?
Yes, let me give you an example, Phil. I had to come from the other side of town yesterday, and the metro in Sao Paulo was on strike. All the workers were on strike, and so I had to drive here. It took me 2.5 hours. Today, the metro is working, so I managed to make the same way in like 40 to 50 minutes. So the infrastructure is there. It's not working perfectly everywhere. You know, here in Sao Paulo, for example, there is still the threat of more strikes by the metro workers, and that would be a problem. In other parts of Brazil, again, there are buses and some special lines that have been set up by the government. But certainly it's going to be a hassle in many parts, and it would certainly also give a much better impression to visitors if Brazil had finished all these important infrastructure works in time.
These back to the projects that the government's trying to finish on time. There has been some major setbacks, but at the same time, I know the time for blaming is probably going to be later, but in your report, you already heard that some of the state officials were blaming each other, saying that they were promised things that they didn't actually receive. Has there been any comments, at least from the national authorities?
Well, listen, that's really what they have been saying. The problem is that Brazilians, they are quite creative here, you know, but planning is a serious problem in this country. Many licenses and red tape, bureaucracy, many problems, a well-known problem in Brazil. You know, for the last 7 years, many people are saying, yes, we're going to be late and it's going to be much more expensive than it should be. That's what happened.